And we are live.
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Steve Van Samson,
Curtis M. Lawson,
Paul Christian Glenn, Joshua Rex, Raz, Rob Smith.
Hey everybody, happy Sunday. Welcome to the new issue of The Clutch of Personalities on the Owlite Network. Tonight we have with us somebody who is so awesome. Okay, we have Ellen Datlow, who has won multiple fantasy awards, Locus Awards, Hugo Awards, Stoker Awards, International Horror Guild Awards, Shirley Jackson Awards. She won the 2012 Post-Nero Black Spot Award for Excellence as Best Foreign Editor. She has been the recipient of the 2007 Carl Edward Wagner Award, given at the British Fantasy Convention for outstanding contribution to the genre, and has also been honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award by the Horror Writers Association, as well as the World Fantasy Life Achievement Award in 2014. Everybody, please welcome the amazing fiction editor, Ellen Datlow.
Hi,
We're so excited to have you here.
just so you know,
And-
Jack really knocked things over. So they might be differences. I'm warning everybody that my cat is next to me and might be knocking books over. So if you hear anything, it's him.
We haven't had a cat around for a while, so we're happy to have him. I don't know what you've broken out, but for tonight I've been holding on to bottles of these for special shows. So I have my Frankenstein wine from 19 Crimes. So good spooky wine for a good spooky show. And Ellen, what I'd like to start on first, because we were talking about this right before the show, is that if you could explain a little bit about what it is that you actually do, because editor is a big category, and you are very specific in it as far as like what you do. And I just would like to let people understand that.
Okay, I'll try. There are different kinds of editors. First of all, there's a substantive editor, a line editor, copy editor. I do both substantive editing and line editing, which means I'll work with the writer on their story. I'll go through revisions with them if they need revisions. And I will go, and if I buy the story, if I acquire the story for any place, before I send it to production, I will do a fine line edit, which means a line by line edit of the story. It does not mean, if I happen to notice bad punctuation or typos, I'll obviously fix them, but that's the copy editor's job. So in addition to actually working on the manuscripts, of course, I acquire fiction. And I work for different companies. Right now, I acquire for Reactor, which used to be called Tor.com, which is the website for Tor books. And I acquire short stories for them, and I acquire novellas for them. And I also edit anthologies. That's a different it's adjacent to what I do. I mean, when I do an anthology, it's sold to a particular publisher. It's commissioned by a publisher, and I have a contract with the publisher, and then I know about how many words I need in the anthology, whether it could be a reprint anthology or an original anthology. Now, Fear is the most recent one, is all reprints. So in a way, so I don't have to actually edit the stories because they've already been edited. But for that kind of anthology, what I'll do is I'll go to, usually for reprint anthologies, they're always theme anthologies. And this theme was psychological horror. So what I will do, I may have a few ideas of stories that I want to use for that kind of an anthology. Because I always read for the best horror of the year. I have a lot of stories that are memorable to me in my head. I mean, I remember, okay, I really love that story. And maybe I can't use it for my year's best, but I still remember that story and I want to use it for something else. And sometimes I'll take a classic story that really stuck in my mind. And that's what I did with Fears. I mean, most of the stories were written in the last 10 years, but two of the stories are really old. One was by Joyce Carol Oates, and one was by, I can never remember his name, sorry. Charles Birkin, they're both classic horror stories that are psychological horror. There's no supernatural aspect in them at all. So with that kind of anthology, I will go to writers who I'm aware of, who I know personally or know their work. And I'll say, do you have any stories on this theme that you published in the last 5 years that haven't been overly reprinted and haven't been, and just are pretty recent? And you can send me 3 if you have any,
Oh, wow.
Send me 3 what you think works, and then I'll read them. So I may end up with like 100 stories to read and pick. Yeah, so that's how a reprint anthology like that works. And the best horror of the year. Do you want me to stop for a minute? Do you have any questions?
No, I was.
Okay, all right.
I was just keep going.
For the best horror of the year, that's different. I'm allowed to read the stories that came out the year I'm reading for. Like right now, I'm reading stories from 2024. That means that's why I have books falling all over the place, and my cat's knocking them over. I'm trying to see where you can't see my cocktail table from here, and probably a better thing because it's filled with piles. And I have piles of books here, there, everywhere, and magazines. But I try to be at least aware of every horror story that's been published, which is impossible. I will ask to see magazines. When it's a website, I actually I try to get the publisher to send me either a file. The thing is, if you just send me your URL, your link to it, I won't remember to read it. So I actually need like an e-file of things to read, because I have a file, I have a Word file or folder where all the reading is. And I do have, for my best horror of the year, I have 2 readers. I have one reader in Oregon, who reads ebooks for me. She'll read magazines like Aurealis, which is from Australia. I used to read Aurealis, but they hardly have any horror. So I will send the copies of Aurealis, email them to her. And if she sees any horror or things that I should read, she'll tell me you should read these stories. And so I send her things like that. I have a reader in New York who will read magazines that I think, physical magazines that probably won't have horror, or anthologies that are maybe mostly mainstream but might have some horror, like Reactor magazine and Tin House and Conjunctions always had a horror issue or a gothic kind of issue in the fall. Asimov's hardly ever has any horror, but once in a while Sheila Williams will publish some horror in her October issue. So I will give the magazines that mostly don't have horror to my reader here. And she'll go through them and say, you should read this, you should read this. So but they're like a drop in the bucket. People say, well, how much do you read?
Yeah.
I read, I've counted up how many anthologies I look at. I don't read every word, but I have a feel for what's in the anthology. I'll maybe do if there's if all the stories are by people I've never heard of, I will do a spot check. I will read a few stories here and there. And if I think they're good, I will read more of them. If I don't like what I've read, I will pass them on to my reader. And then she will basically vet them for me and send back, but well, you should read this one. This is good. But I give Teresa my Alfred Hitchcock magazines, the Ellery Queen magazines, which I used to read, but I don't have time anymore because they rarely have horror. You know, the mystery magazines or crime stories. Some stories are dark enough to consider crime, and I don't read that many novels. I mean, I have to really pick and choose what novels I read every year because I just don't have the time. So that's how reprint anthologies work. And my best horror is kind of the most open anthology of any of them because I'll look at anything that's been published, or I will try to at least look at it, you know, skim it, read it, whatever. As far as original anthologies, that's a whole different situation. Usually a publisher will want certain names. They'll want a particular names if you can get them in the table of contents, because names, unfortunately, sell the book to the public. You know, it's like, and most people, it's very hard to sell a non-theme anthology. And I've only done 3 because they're never as successful as theme anthologies. Readers say, oh, please, you know, I want a non-theme anthology, but not enough of them buy it. So, which is why the theme anthology, it gives both the reader and also the writer something a hook to maybe to focus a little bit. For a writer, if I'm working with them on a non-theme, with the theme anthology, I can say, this is the theme I'm working on. It can be broad, you know, if you can justify it being on this theme and I really love your story, I will take it. If I can justify it to myself, you know. And there's stories that I've taken for theme anthologies that people say, why is that in there? It's like, well, I can tell you why. I mean, this is why I took that story. To me, it's related thematically to the whole of the book. But you know, so it's half acquiring, a lot of reading is editing, and then the actual editing process, which I enjoy usually.
Awesome.
So that's kind of, you know, that's kind of a, you know, a quickie how difference of what editing is.
That was great. I would love to do what you do, but hate it at the same time because, as you said, you're reading. I mean, you're reading all for work. Fortunately, you seem to get a lot of good stuff.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's why. For novels, I will only read the novels that I think I can justify covering in my year's best, and that I think I'll enjoy. Otherwise, it's like it would be killing. I mean, and I have hardly read any novels this year. I think I've only read like 4 novels so far, and I have, you know, I mean, my deadline is not December, thank God, but I should be catching up on more novels, and because they're usually print, I don't like reading novels on as ebooks, so I read them before I go to sleep, you know, and I used to carry them around, but you know, hardcovers are heavy.
Mm-hmm. So when you do like you have the post up right now for contributions for the best horror. And you're saying that, you know, you prefer to have the hard copy, you prefer to have a whole book. And you said that if you don't know the people in the book, now, when you get it from the publisher, is it usually like, on behalf of this author, would like to have their thing submitted? Or do you go through, even if it's only focusing on one author, do you still check out some of the other books as well?
I never only check out the one author.
Okay.
I mean, what I try to do, I put out that's a call for submissions. I send to all the publishers I can. At the beginning of the year, and I finally put it as a pinned post on Facebook because people constantly forget. And so periodically I have to remind them, yes, you have to send me your stuff. And yes, please ask your publisher to send me the anthology your work is in. Please ask your publisher to send me your collection. I don't want authors to have to pay for sending me their material. That's the least their publishers should be able to do. And so, yeah, I mean, sometimes a publisher doesn't want to send me anything. If they're from overseas, I can understand sometimes, well, they could send me an ebook of an anthology, but I really prefer reading print. It's just, I just prefer an old-fashioned person, can I say. So I would prefer print sent to me, but because things are overseas and I know postage is really costly, sometimes, you know, I'll say, you can send me the anthology as an ebook. And then sometimes writers will say, did my publisher send this to me, to you? And I'll say, no, they didn't. Could you please remind them? I will try to remind a publisher once or twice a year. If I don't hear back, it's hard for me to keep track. So if they don't send it to me, I do have a list of books that I'm waiting for, things that I'm hoping will come in. But invariably, there are always books, anthologies, collections that I miss, that I don't know existed because the publisher never sent me a copy. So that's totally frustrating for me. But yeah, and I mean, an individual writer could theoretically send me the story, their own story only. But if they're in a book, if they're in an anthology, I'd really prefer to sell it to, unless the anthology is not horror. If you have a story that's horror, that's in a non-horror anthology, and I don't need to see the whole book. You can send me that story. My email address is on that call for submissions. It's datlow@yahoo.com. And you can question me. You can ask me, have I seen this anthology yet? And I'll say, no, but the publisher is going to send it to me. Or, no, I never heard of it. No, can you please tell your publisher to send it to me? So I do try to see as much as I can out there for the year's best.
Okay. And something we do on here, we love to focus on the storytelling. And I think what you were saying before with justifying why a story is in there and organizing the book so that they all have some sort of constant flow to them, so they have an organic feel to the entire book is a way of it's your way of storytelling. Does that sound right? You put these in this way and
well, I think different editors organize different anthologies certain ways. I mean, I know I've been on panels with other anthology editors, and most of us do it a similar way, but others do it completely differently. I mean, I've seen anthologies organized by alphabetical order of the author, which is terrible. That's nothing. I mean, it's meaningless. It's like that takes no thought whatsoever. But I mean, the idea for me, when I'm putting together an anthology, whether it's a reprint anthology or an original anthology, the first story is almost the most important story. It should be a strong story, a story that I think is one of the strongest in the book. It shouldn't be too long. It should be accessible. It shouldn't be too weird. It shouldn't be too complicated. You want to draw the reader in. And it should also kind of maybe give an idea of what the anthology is about, in a broad way. And then the last story or the next to last story is usually what the editor considers the strongest story. It either can finish up with that strong story that's very long, or sometimes I'll have a very short story afterwards as a grace note. I'll have this powerful story, and then boom, then you have this little thing at the end that's a little not so heavy duty. And then the middle, and the rest of it is all kind of related to each other. What I do is, from that point, I try to vary the tone, the word length, definitely. If I can, the voice. Sometimes if you suddenly realize that you have two stories that take place in the same kind of place. I mean, when I did my Lovecraft Unbound, I realized I had two stories that took place in I am sorry, but I get mixed up between the North and South Poles. But anyway, they both took in one of the poles, all right? So it's very cold. Mm-hmm. And you could either put them together because they're very different stories, and that can bounce off it. Or the other thing, which is what I do, is put them far apart. So it doesn't, the reader doesn't say, oh my God, all the stories are the same. On the other hand, you can't make a reader read in order. It's like, ideally, it's like, yes, I'm organizing this kind of for flow, but it doesn't have to, it's not like exact. It's certainly not a science. And some people think I take much more analysis about what stories I put where than I do. I'll put, maybe you start putting a weird story maybe 2/3 of the way through, because then the person's already hooked, hopefully, forgetting that assuming they're going to read in order. Okay, we're assuming you're going to read stories in order, otherwise forget it. What can you say? So maybe the second and third stories are shorter, and the longer, maybe the fourth one is longer, and the middle one you might have another powerful one. You may bury one that you decided, well, it's not burying, but you may put one further along that you decided didn't like as much as you thought you did when you bought it, or you just think that it's weird enough that the reader is going to be okay with it because they've already gotten that far. And so it's a balancing act. But there's no perfect way to organize. I just think the first and last stories are the most important. Really, that's it.
Yeah, that was.
So a lot of people may be reading a lot more into the order of my stories than they deserve.
And that's with everything. People overlook, like, they're reading into a story or one line that somebody wrote, and or quick side example, like what you're saying. I do a comic book show as well, and we've run into so many creators that people are like, so when you were writing issue this back in 1984, what were you thinking with this specific panel? And they're like, I have no idea. I don't care. I was writing the story and getting it done.
Right.
That's what I was doing. It just went there. Like super famous panels, maybe they might remember, but most of the time they're just like, it was just getting from point A to point B. I had to put something in there, while everybody's like, oh no, this means that, in this universe, Wolverine can do, I don't know, silly things like that people way, way, way overthink. But I'm the overthinker when it comes to story organization too. I am
with the best of it's impossible. I mean, the best of, they're supposedly the best of the year. So that's even more like, well, what does it mean, the best of the best of the best? It's like whatever made an impression on me. It's like the impression. And I think most editors would work that way. It's a story that for whatever reason really hits you in a certain way. And then, what happens a lot of times, all the time when I'm editing and when I'm putting together, whether it's a reprint anthology or original, as the stories come in, as I choose the stories, I may see a pattern. I may see the anthology may be shaping up differently to how I had initially envisioned it. And that can be a problem because, you're supposed to be handing in something that your publisher commissioned. So, occasionally it's like, oh my God, I don't have enough of that kind of story. So I'll go back to the authors who haven't sent their stories in and say, hey, can you do this? Or can you do that? I need something very different here. And if you're lucky, I work with enough writers that I have a few writers who I know I can count on to produce on demand, which is like very unusual. And like, boy, those writers are gems. If you want to get published a lot, be flexible, and be fast. If you can write quickly, a really good story quickly, like I need a story in 3 weeks, write one. If you can't do it, don't say yes, because if I'm counting on you, I'll kill you if you don't do it. But on the other hand, if you, it's like I have some prolific authors who do it all the time, and that's great. Those people are gold, and those are the writers who an editor go after all the time because they know they can count on them. And there people drop out. What happens when I do an anthology, an original anthology? By original, I mean all original stories, all new stories. I usually ask at least a third more than I usually need, because I know that a third of the writers will drop out. And I'm in the middle of doing an anthology right now, and I should have asked for more people to begin with, but it's a shorter anthology than I'm used to working with, and I was afraid I'd get too much. So now, I had to, at the last minute, ask a few people to write quickly for me, and they did, luckily. But yeah, generally, people drop out. They don't have an idea. There's a death in the family. They're overwhelmed by deadlines. You can't. Life happens. I don't blame them. Unless they say, yeah, I'm going to have it, and then, just say, well, screw you, I don't have it. But usually they're very apologetic, and I understand, that's life. It happens. And so, yeah, and I don't begrudge those writers. If they do it all the time, if I ask someone to write me a story all the time, and they always say yes, and they always end up not doing it, but that's a different situation. Then I probably won't ask them again.
And that's completely fair. we recently put out an anthology, and we were able to grab some people. It was a reprint. Well, some original, some reprint, and had the people that we could call on and say, hey, and a number of them did it. And so it is wonderful when you can get those people that you just know are going to put out something and put out something good for you. So you're just like,
Right.
yes, we
Yeah.
got that
And,
story from that person.
Yeah, I've enjoyed doing mixed reprint and original anthologies, because then you can. I mean, my early anthologies were half and half. I mean, the first two anthologies I did that weren't as best of OMNI anthologies were Blood Is Not Enough and Alien Sex. Blood Is Not Enough was vampirism. Half the stories were stories that were reprints that of stories I really liked and I wanted to buy, but couldn't, or just they were older stories. And then half I solicited from writers. And that way that's a good way to get, well, I mean, the people who they were names, but they were all right now, probably, unfortunately, no one even remembers who they are. But, that's a good way to get big names in if you need big names. Unfortunately, some big names, if you have to go through their agent or the sub-rights people, they'll torture you. It's like, that's why, and sometimes that's why you don't always get who you want for best horror or best of the year, because you can't get the rights. I warn all writers, when you're starting out, it doesn't matter, but when you start putting together collections and get well known, and if you sell a collection to a mainstream publisher, I don't mean a big publisher, I mean, I don't mean a big genre publisher, I mean a mainstream publisher, and they're going to want to take all reprint rights. So it means you can't sell the rights separately, the reprint rights. I would have to go to the sub-rights department, and they generally want way too much money. They don't know what anything is worth in the reprint world. And it also takes too long. I mean, I got a Joyce Carol Oates story that I really wanted for this, but it almost didn't happen. Partly because initially the sub-rights, the sub-rights person, they wanted I was able to get through her agent to the head of sub-rights, and generally they would have charged me too much money, but we came to an agreement, a flat fee that wasn't ridiculous. I can actually afford it. But even though the head of sub-rights said okay, it still had to go through their sub-rights portal, which took 3 or 4 months. Finally, my deadline was coming up, and I finally went back to Joyce and her agent and the sub-rights guy, and I said, if I can't get this done, I can't use it. It's like, I need to get this now. And suddenly there it was. I got the rights, and they even, it was like I was afraid they were going to give me a hard time with e-rights and audio rights, and they didn't. I mean, they actually, I don't know the audio, but e-rights were definitely included. But that's only because the author made it happen. Same thing happened with Ted Chiang. I had published a story of his original story of his in one of my old anthologies, and in Vanishing Acts, and I wanted to use it for my edited by anthology from Subterranean, and he had Knopf, I think it was Knopf, bought all the rights. I mean, they bought the anthology, the collection, the rights to his collection. Even though I told them, please don't do that. It's like, that means they control the rights and you have no say. That means no one can afford to take your stories and reprint them. And sure enough, they wanted like $1,000. I said, ha ha. I said, Ted, guess what? I'm not using your story. And I really wanted to because I published it originally and I really would have liked to have used it. And he pushed his his publisher. And I was able to acquire it for a reasonable amount. But, I've tried sometimes China Mieville. I tried to get a story for Best Horror, and it had to go through his sub-rights people. And I said, forget it. It's like, it's not worth it. I mean, I will not ever reprint a Stephen King story again. It's not worth the trouble.
Oh, boy.
Because, I mean, I get even if I can get the e-rights, the audio rights, and the print rights for an anthology. For foreign rights, you have to go to each foreign publisher. It's like, yeah, sure. It's like, forget it. It's not worth the trouble. And, so I don't even bother anymore. So when you're a big name writer, don't do that. Make sure that you retain the the reprint rights to your individual stories. And if you have a good agent, they'll do it. They'll make sure that this is okay, that your publisher does not control. I mean, I don't know how much clout people have these days, but if you have the clout, use it. And if you want your stories reprinted in 20 years, if you want your name out there, make sure that you retain the rights to reprint, to have your story reprinted by someone else, and not have to go through sub-rights department or your agency, which could be, it's an estate. Estates are really bad. Again, because they have no idea how much money is actually made or not made in book publishing. I'm sorry, were you going to ask something?
I was just going to say, I guess I've pretty much lucked out. I only have a couple things out there right now, and the publishers that I've had have been Stefan was one of them. And they allow, like, we print it, but you retain your rights to everything. You know, just let it print it for this, and you can keep your rights. Because I've seen some of those contracts that you're talking about, and they even go up to where now it's like, and any, you know, we own this, we own the e-rights, we own the audio rights, we own any movie rights. We own things that haven't come out. They seriously have things where it's like, in case a new form of media comes out that currently isn't available that we can use this story for, we own that as well.
No, you can't.
And it's just silly.
Just because, I mean, don't give up all your rights just to get published. It's not worth it, really. No.
Yeah, and there was something else I was going to ask you, and it came to. Could I ask you about a specific person? I don't know if you would. I'm assuming you would have wanted to grab one of their reprints or one of their originals over the year for Best of Horror. I haven't gone through every anthology, but one of my favorites and one of the most prolific writers out there. I have read maybe a fifth of his stuff, and I feel bad about that. But Ramsey Campbell is just booking it hard and going like. The man has not slowed down.
Yeah, actually,
his entire life.
I have a story of his for Best Horror number 16. That's coming
nice.
Here. I mean, I have in the past bought an original story from him years ago. I bought For the Dark, a ghost story, but I haven't I haven't actually solicited other stories from him, original stories, but I have reprinted him over the years.
Okay, I love his stuff, and he's one of my favorite authors out there simply because of how open and joyful he is with sharing with everybody, you know.
Sure. Well, it's funny because some of his stories, I love most of his stories, but every once in a while there's a story that is so British I don't understand it. You ever come across one or two that are so weird? I mean, they're so British that it's like, what the hell is going on here? But usually they're pretty okay. But then every once in a while, like 80, 50 stories, like, I don't understand what the hell's going on here. And I know this is British. It's the British part that I don't get. And I've been to England a lot, you know, but so it's like something about what he does is like, I don't get it.
Yeah, it's very cultural. I read a lot of British stuff, obviously not nearly as much as you do. So I get some of the weird references here and there that other people are like, what in the hell are they talking about? But yeah, some authors are just so British. You're like, I'll look a couple things up. And if that doesn't explain it to me, like, I know what a cheese roll is. I know what a number of these odd things are.
But I can guess, it's kind of a sandwich or something. What is a cheese roll?
Oh my goodness. Ellen, I need to introduce you to the wonderful world of cheese rolling. It is an old tradition in Great Britain where they will take like this gigantic wheel of cheese, right? And then they will find a very steep hill. They have grades of them like skiing. Mm-hmm. And then a bunch of people line up as contestants and they roll the cheese wheel down the hill and all of the people run behind it and try to get to the bottom first without killing themselves. And a lot of people get injured, obviously, doing this.
It's a real thing.
It's a real thing. Oh, they do it every year. Yeah.
Okay. If Ramsey wrote about that and maybe he has, I would take it on faith that even if it was not real, that it would still be fun to read about. Okay. I don't have to understand everything, even if I can, sometimes say, is that real?
I found it in one of the, you read fantasy too. Sir Terry Pratchett is the one who introduced me to the cheese rolling, and you can never trust anything that Terry Pratchett references because he has the best time making fun of us. You know, like I seriously tried to explain what a treacle mine was to my mother, and she's like, that's not real. I'm like, but right here it explains it so well. You know, and she's like, that's not real. Sorry to let you know, but I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess that's not real after I looked it up. It's a British joke, but you know, when they explain something and it seems so perfect.
They have really weird candy, British. I mean, their candy is really awful, usually, and very strange. You know, at least it used to be really strange. Maybe it's less strange than it is now than it used to be.
Yeah, I had a friend from England who would try to get all these weird things, and we're like, you bought that on purpose? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
This is what you spend your Saturday nights eating while you're watching Doctor Who? Okay. I love Doctor Who, by the way. No, no shade on the British or anything, but some of the food is rather iffy, I think.
It's gotten better, you know. And now they have a lot of really good Indian restaurants too, so that helps. And Pakistani restaurants.
Oh yeah.
You know, I was in Glasgow for the Worldcon, and I ate 3 Indian restaurants, and they were delicious. They were terrific. And I also went, you know, I mean, I discovered I used to love fish and chips when they were in newspaper, and now they're not greasy enough, so they're not as good. Yeah, they have to be really greasy. What's the point? And I discovered, I mean, you know, I've been going to London since the 70s, and the food there was pretty bad. But I never knew about English roasts. I actually love roasts. I love roast beef and Yorkshire pudding and potato and the whole thing. Now, if I knew, you know, of course they can't eat that all the time. It's usually only Sundays. But yeah, I mean, the food's gotten better in England, and the coffee's gotten better too. You know, 40 years ago it was terrible.
Good to know. I plan on going one of these days. My mother will retire the 3rd time sometime next year, I believe. And we're trying to, I have to like get in shape because you can't drive everywhere in England. And the roads are small. All of my British friends were like, I'm like, I'm from the Midwest. We put like 5,000 miles on a car and that's just a weekend. And they're like, what's wrong with you? Do you not have jobs? Can you afford to spend that much in petrol? And I'm like, what do you mean? And then they show me their roads and I'm like, oh.
And also, can you drive on the other side of the road? The only time Pat Cadigan ever drove was we were driving to Scarborough years ago. And I've had Indian places where they had beef. But anyway, okay. Maybe whatever.
You have? Okay.
Pat Cadigan and I drove to Scarborough for a convention, and she'd never driven a British car before. And it should have taken maybe 2 hours. It took us like 8 hours. It was really terrifying. She couldn't merge in the right direction. We got stuck in Hull. We could not find a way out of Hull. It was just went round around the whole city. And by the time we got to Scarborough, she said she couldn't drive. We had to. So luckily, Joe Fletcher's boyfriend at the time took up the car back for us, and we took the train home. But she never went behind a wheel again. So yeah, if you're not used to driving on the other side of the road, it'll be an experience. You know. Anyway,
I'm glad I can't drive. I have epilepsy, so they won't let me behind the wheel of a car regardless. Because I used to love to drive. It was like my way to chill out. You know, just pop in some music, calm down. But now it's like I am so dimly aware of my own existence that if I'm in a car somewhere, I don't know where I'm at. If I'm on the ground and my feet are on the ground, I know where I'm at. But Jenny had a question. Oop, wrong way. Friday here had a question.
I'm somewhere on the screen. I had 2. One, what is there a particular theme that you keep going back to in making anthologies every so often?
Not real. Well,
you love to
yes
just
and no. Well, I mean, publishers always want people to love Craftian because they sell. But other than that, I don't want to repeat myself necessarily. I mean, I've done one reprint ghost story anthology, Hauntings, and I've done The Dark, which was a ghost story anthology, and I did Echoes, which was ghosts. So I love ghosts, and I would do more if publishers will buy them. But usually they want a different idea. You know, I've done several Lovecraftian. I've done Lovecraft Unbound, which was my first one, which was half reprint and half original, and Lovecraft Monsters for Tachyon, which is all reprints with great illustrations by John Coulthard, and Children of Lovecraft, which was all originals for Dark Horse. And so I've done several Lovecraftian ones, and the problem with that is they sell. They sell almost better than anything else. So the publishers, say, hey, will you do this again? But I try to do different ones. I try to avoid repeating myself.
That I understand. And absolutely, positively love the doll book. And there was something that totally intrigued me about your collection. What? I collect a whole lot of porcelain dolls, so this is not making fun. This is, ooh, so awesome. Why your collection of heads, arms, and legs?
Excuse me. Why do I do it? I don't know. I started collecting three-face dolls. The dolls that you turn their head and they smile, cry, and sleep. And you don't know about those? Look them up. I mean, I've got a few. I don't want to.
No, I was saying, that just sounds so amazing.
And then
I haven't seen many of those.
I like doll heads, and there's a natural to do a doll anthology. Excuse me. And the only thing stopping me was the title. For years, I just couldn't. It's hard to sell an anthology if you don't have a title, a really good title. And so for years, I didn't have a title for the doll anthology. And then I was having lunch with a friend and said something about the doll collection. And it's like, wow, that's perfect. So finally, I had a title for the anthology, and it worked out. So, but I also collect a lot of things. I collect skulls, animal skulls. For a long time I did. I haven't gotten any new ones lately, but I mean, I have many collections, of different things. I have Zuni fetishes. I have art glass. I collect I like collecting old tools. They have to be small, weird, and cheap. And actually, I just went to I just was at a flea market recently. We had a flea market outside of my neighborhood, and I bought a kind of vintage ice cream scoop. That's just really cool. I mean, I probably won't use it, but I have to figure out where to put it. But I like it. So I like old tools and weird things, doll pieces with some of the things I would collect. And now I have most dolls I want, so I don't need any more.
Are there specific types of animal skulls and stuff, like mammals or reptiles, or does it make a difference to you? Or you just?
I started. I think maybe the first one with a gray fox, and then I have a couple of. I have a beaver skull. I have a cow skull. Wait, you know what? I don't know where it is. Oh my god, I moved about 4 or 5 years ago, and I have a cow skull, and I don't know where it is. It's someplace in my apartment hanging, and I don't remember where it is. I haven't. It's like my place is so like second nature to me now. I have no idea where my skull is, the big one. Well, it's around someplace. I had an alligator skull that was really big. It was beautiful. I got a New Orleans look many years ago, and I used to keep it on my cocktail table in my old apartment. And eventually it dried out, and it's made from a lot of bones, which I had no idea. And the bones started peeling off. So I brought them all to a place down in Soho in New York that had a taxidermy and animal skulls and things, and they fixed it. And it was not cheap. I brought it home. Within a month, one of my cats at the time knocked it over and and I gave up. And I still have the jaw of it. That's it. And for a long time, I wanted to get a new one. But the thing is that they don't have them anymore. Now all I have are the ones with the skin on them, which are disgusting. I don't want an alligator skull with skin on it. I want a bare alligator skull. And it's like, and I have no room for it anymore. So I kind of gave up. Yeah. But now I have all kinds of skulls. I have a bird skull. I have a turtle skull, I think. Yeah.
I grew up on an acre. Sorry. Oh, I was just going to say I grew up on an acreage, and we didn't know it at the time because we were kids. But we had this very steep hill that went down. We had a road cut through it. But when cattle die, a lot of times the farmers just kind of dispose of them on the property. I mean, they just dig a hole and bury them there on the property. And one had worn away enough that we started to see bones. And so we're like, 7 to 12 years old range of 4 kids who went out there, and we were digging, and we were like pretending we were archaeologists. So we had like brooms and brushes and stuff, and we're getting this through. And we finally get like the skull and a couple of the ribs going up. I mean, it's an entire cow.
Wow.
And I will never forget that my stepsister, look, we were trying to figure out what it was because we were stupid. And she looks up and she's like, you guys, maybe it's a rhino. And how she thought that a rhino could get into the middle of Nebraska, I have no idea. But we have not let her live that down. And we're almost 50 years old now. So it's just like, yep, you are forever the rhino girl.
Yeah. Hi, Mike. Oh, so did you have another question, or you asked the second? Oh, the second question was a doll question. Yeah, so I mean, I always wanted. I mean, I love dolls, but I mean, I'm very picky in my dolls. I don't like cutesy dolls. Although I do have, what are they called? Oh, the
American Girl?
No, oh God, no.
Okay, good.
Cupid dolls.
You said
Cupid
cutesy.
Dolls. No, Cupid dolls.
Oh, okay.
Dolls that were created in the 40s, I think, by this woman and then they used to get them sometimes on sticks at carnivals. And I have several Cupid dolls, and I like they're rubber usually, or plastic.
They scare me.
All dolls, or any dolls? Or
no, just Cupid dolls, the squeezy ones where their face jumps out at you.
Cute.
I have some really creepy. Well, I have my dolls near me, oddly enough. Like, this is the oldest one I have, and it's falling apart. It was from my grandmother, though. And if you wind it up, it crawls, but like all of its face paint has worn off and its tattered little outfit. But we all had this when we were kids, and it will, like I said, it's all falling apart. I need to get it fixed. But it crawls. And it would crawl at you. And my whole family was just like, oh, thank God that doll is gone. And I was like, nope, I kept it when we were cleaning out the house and stuff. I'm like, nope, it's over here. I've got it.
I got a spider. Actually, hold on a second. I can find one of my Cupid dolls. Hang on. I can see her right here. Hang on.
Okay.
Don't go anywhere.
We won't. We love this.
We just want the world to know that you are one of the most coolest people we've ever met.
Yes.
Okay. What? Then this is not a really. I don't know if it's an accurate one because it's lying around. They don't usually. It's hard. I'm sorry. It's hard for me to aim in the right direction. But this is what they look like. Okay. Usually they're standing, so I don't know how accurate if this is. They're usually naked. They're always naked, and they're usually standing rather than lying on. Sorry, it's like I can't do it. I can't get the right angle here.
It's backwards on StreamYard.
I know. I'm trying to. Yeah, there it is. You got the idea.
Okay.
That's what they look like.
Yeah, that one's cute. I thought that the Cupid dolls were the ones where they were rubber and you squeezed them and their face shot out.
No, that's something else. I don't know what it's called, but no,
okay.
Cupid dolls are the.
Okay, those are cute.
I don't know what those. I know what you mean. The squeezy ones. I know those. They were much older. I mean, much newer than these. These were like original.
Okay.
So yeah,
well, I'm not scared of those then.
I know the ones that with the eyes pop out. Yeah, they're weird. I don't have any of those.
My grandma would shoot her false teeth out at us after reciting Little Orphan Annie by James Whitcomb Riley when we were little kids. And so it was like, the goblins will get you if you don't watch out. Blah! And so having a face shoot out at me just... Mike, personally, some dolls are just creepy to me. Back in high school, one of my friend's moms had a collection of porcelain dolls that all sat on the coffee table in her house. And when I would visit, I'd swear they were all staring at me.
Well, maybe they were.
Yeah, they were.
That's the job of a porcelain doll. It is to stare into your soul.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, so
They were never on our level.
I'm going to cover you up here for a second, but this is the current book out, guys. The latest release from Miss Ellen here. It is Fears, Tales of Psychological Horror. I have read it. It is amazing.
Good.
So many you found so many great stories for that one, and it takes you everywhere. There's a little bit of supernatural stuff thrown in, but there's just some of the stories, the beats, you get into them, and it's just like hitting over and over and over, and you're just like, the terror slowly builds, but your heart starts beating a bit faster each time the next chapter comes up, and each time the next encounter comes up. And you found some marvelous authors for that. I just want to say, so what put this one together, and who all
Well,
did you have picked ahead of time, and etc. for it, or however much you'd like to share with us?
excuse me. Let me get that frog out of my throat. Every reprint anthology, I've been doing a series for Tachyon, and every anthology that's a reprint, I work with the publisher, Jacob, and we come up together with an idea, and he always wants something as broad as possible. I did Lovecraft Monsters with him. I did Hauntings with him, which is ghost stories. I've done I can't remember. I'm trying to remember the reprint movie one. I did Final Cuts, that was originals, but that was not with him. But anyway, I've done like 5 reprint anthologies with him, and we come up together with the idea and the title. Again, the title is really important. The last one was Body Shocks, which actually won the Splatterpunk award, which I was shocked because I don't consider myself someone who edits or buys much Splatterpunk. But anyway, I mean, it's extreme horror. But with Fears, that was just one we came up with together, and I don't remember who actually came up with the title, but I wanted it to be. When I asked for people to send me stories, I said you could have some supernatural aspect, but then I found too many people were sending me stories that were mostly supernatural, so I had to change in the middle. I had to tell people, no supernatural. So that's why there's a little bit of supernatural. There can be a little bit of supernatural, that's fine, but I wanted the thrust to be psychological and not supernatural. And some of the stories I had remembered, the Birkin one, what is it, A Lovely Day for Coconuts, has stuck in my head. I mean, it's a truly horrific, grisly, awful story that's brilliant. And that was the oldest story it's a story that I read a while ago, and I knew I wanted to use it someday for something, and I was able to get permission to use it. So I have
goosebumps right now because of that one. That story, when you figure it out, hits you so freaking hard.
It's funny because no one's mentioned it in the reviews. I don't know if you're appalled by it or what.
I haven't put up my review yet, but that's going in there because that one really hit hard. Yeah. Sorry, interrupting, but.
And I don't know, and I'm not sure I don't know. I never read Joyce Carol Oates' story before. It's like, it's totally famous. It's probably one of her most famous stories. It was made into a movie. It's like, Where Are You Going? Where Have You Been? And it was made into a short from Talking. What was it called? It was with Treat Williams and Laura Dern were in it, and it was part of a 3 things movie which I never saw. But anyway, someone had recommended it, and I read it. It's like, oh my God, yes, if I can get it, yeah. And it's and actually I have more than one. It's a stalker kind of story, and I have a few other stories that are about serial killers, stalkers, whatever.
Smooth Talk.
Yes, thank you. Yes, Smooth Talk was the name of the movie. But I don't know if it's a full length movie or if it's like 20 minutes, like each part was. Do you know it was Smooth Talk the section, or was Smooth Talk the entire movie? Do you have any idea?
I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, I don't know offhand.
Let's see. It was released in 1985. It won a prize in the 1986 Sundance Festival. It looks as if it's an hour and a half long movie.
Oh, okay, so it's an actual full-length movie. All right, just a short one. Okay. Yeah, so I never saw the movie, and I had never read the story, but a friend had recommended it, and I thought it was perfect. So yeah, so and then there are other stories that I had published before. Like, I mean, I knew about Margot Lanigan's story. It won all the awards when it was published, and I really liked it, so I knew I wanted to use that. And then there was well, I've read so much Laird Barron. I love his stuff. So I don't, I mean, I had to ask him, well, so which one should I use? Or give me some ideas of which might work, which are not supernatural or mostly not. And then Stuart Onan's story was one I think I took for I might have taken it for a year's best. It's called, it has two titles actually. I used the original title, End of Summer, but it actually had Summer of something or other too. I noticed, I found it online. So I was able to get a copy of it easily that way. And so that was one I knew of. So some of the stories were things that I had published before. The John Patrick Higgins, A Wink and a Gun, I think it's called, was one that I didn't take for the year's best. There were two stories. There was an anthology of stories that year on Irish crime stories. And there were two stories that were both psychological horror, not supernatural. And it was this one and another one. And I didn't feel I could take both because, well, they were from the same book and they weren't supernatural. And it just felt like I shouldn't do it. I had to make a decision. I took the other one. So for this, I decided, well, I really want to take that story. I really love it. And it's perfect for this. So, yeah. And it's, I mean, I had an idea of at least 5 or 6 of the stories, and that's how a lot of my reprint anthologies start. I know certain stories that I really like that I want to use, and then that's when I go after the writers who I think would write psychological horror. I mean, it depends. If I don't, I'll go after writers whose work I like, admire, have read, and hopefully sometimes it'll be someone who I wouldn't even think had written that kind of story, but they'll say, yeah, I actually have. I was like, oh, okay, great. Send it to me. So that's kind of how those reprint anthologies get done. It's like the germ, and then it spreads out from there when I ask for more stories. But I usually start with a few that in my mind, not always, but often.
I loved everything here. I always read everything again right before I do a show because I'm sure you, as a prolific reader, have gotten to where you can just nail out, a couple hundred pages in a day at least of reading out. But I have the problem where unless I do it right beforehand again, I don't remember everything that I'm going over. And so I'm like looking at the thing as you're saying, I'm like, yep, I remember that. Yep, that was a good one. Yeah.
Well, with an original anthology, don't forget, I read the stories many more times than I do with a reprint anthology. Because the original anthology, I'll read it when I first receive it. I'll read it before I may have some notes for the writer, and we'll go through revisions. And then even when it's done, a few months before production, I'll do the final line edit. I'll look at the story one more time. And then I have to, of course, you go through the copy edit. You have to go through it. I have to look at the copy edit. I don't do it, but I have to look at it and send it back to the author. And then you see the page proof. So, I mean, many of the stories I've read multiple times, whether they're original or reprints, But even so, when I'm talking about the table of contents, I have to go back to the stories, at least the beginning, to refresh my memory of, hey, what's the story about? What's the point of view? What's the tone? So I can order them, figure out what order they should be in.
Yeah. So. I'm bad with titles because people write great titles and then I'm like, for some reason it doesn't, because sometimes the titles are slightly obscure, even though they're a great title, to where I'm like, okay, so this one is about ghosts and I can't remember which of the 3 ghost stories that I read that it is going to be. So I'll pop it up like you do and read it. Jenny, you had another question up here. I think.
You've been reading for years and years. Do you have like favorite stories that you keep going back to when you just need a comfort read?
Well, no, not exactly, but the ones that I reprint are the ones that stick with me. if I like a story, I will try to reprint it because I want more people to read it. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there are stories. When I bought stories starting from OMNI on, I always write a 2-line summary of each story, and that somehow kind of puts it in my head so that if someone 20 years later says, oh, I do a story, did you have published a story, blah, blah, blah. And I may remember the plot enough to be able to remember what the story was. But they're not necessarily always favorite stories. It's just that I can, I do remember what I published, much of it, not a lot, not all of it, obviously, because I published hundreds of stories. Yeah. So, if you want to know what my favorite stories are, they're the ones I've reprinted over and over again.
Just go through her catalog. It'll only take you a couple of days or weeks, maybe a month or two. You have so much. And I've always loved when I was younger, too. It was getting the best horror stories of the year. Mm-hmm. Because then you get to I'm from small town. I literally had, when I was growing up, my public library was the smallest public library in the nation.
Okay.
And so I wasn't exposed to a whole lot of different authors and stuff, but I was a higher reading level. And so I had that. My mom says that I can read anything. And so I'm bringing home Stephen King and The Exorcist and stuff when I'm 8, and I had to look up words in the dictionary, but I didn't get introduced to a whole lot of authors. So reading those anthologies, it was okay, now I can try to find this author in one of the bigger libraries when I get to go, to them and find stuff. And so those were always my favorite books to get. And I don't think I was, you've been in the publishing industry for quite a while, but not as long as from back when I was reading. I wasn't always reading your books, but I love when they come out. And when you do the fantasy, do you prefer the horror over the fantasy, or?
Yeah, no, I mean
I can't.
But when I was co-editing with Terry Windling and with Kelly and Gavin, I didn't read the fantasy. I mean, the years of fantasy and horror, I covered the horror. I did not read the fantasy. They read the fantasy. I mean, okay. I read fantasy stories occasionally, and I buy some for Reactor, but mostly I prefer horror. And I've actually been reading, buying more science fiction than I have in the past while, because I started out in science fiction and then moved towards horror. And I'm now known mostly for horror. But I like to, I do edit some science fiction. I've edited some science fiction novellas, and I edit short stories that are science fiction. But fantasy, I like some fantasy, but it's not my favorite.
Okay. And guys, those of you who are watching, make sure you're making a comment, because at the end of the show, I'm going to spin the wheel of merch, and we will pick somebody who has been speaking to us in chat, and I'm going to be sending you out a hard copy of this book. You're going to love it, because I did, and I have standards in all of my reading, so make sure you say something. We've had some great people pop in so far that I really love.
Questions? If you have questions, ask a question. Throw it out here.
Yes, please do. I know most of you are in the industry, so if you have any questions, now is the time to get in on this, because we only have her for a limited amount of time. We want to keep her for your questions, but you also are getting ready to do StoryFest, which is, this will be the 7th year. For those of you who don't know about it, it is the Westport Library. It's in Connecticut. I'm not sure which town it is in Connecticut, but they do this, probably Westport, as it's called Westport. Oh, Weston? Okay,
no,
but...
oh, sorry.
Okay. It is Westport.
I was in Norwalk, but it's right. I guess they're right next to each other.
All of Connecticut seems kind of squished to me. I went to the Mohegan Sun for something, and it's Norwich and Uncasville, and all of them are all kind of one.
Yeah, I go to Mohegan Sun and Foxwood. I like gambling. I like going to the slot machines.
I do too. I just won $100 a couple days ago. Which I mean, my mom's the one who's like pushes a couple buttons and she's like, "Oh, I went in for 5 minutes, won $500, and I'm leaving." And I'm like,
Okay.
"Thanks." I go in and I usually just push a lot of buttons and leave without anything. But when I can leave ahead, I'm super excited.
Oh yeah, I'm
But
always happy.
Anyway, Storyfest, this is its 7th year, and it is the largest annual literary festival in Connecticut. And you have a panel going there. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what Storyfest is about?
Well, I've been going.
I got a little picture here.
This is going to be, I think, my 3rd year, or maybe 4th, but I think 3rd. And they're great. They're very nice. A lot of writers come, not just horror writers, all different kinds of writers, and they usually put us up in a hotel. I mean, I go the first time, I think. Well, I've been going Friday. I go Friday night. They start Friday evening. There's like a keynote speech. And the first year, I think I introduced Stephen Graham Jones or something. So I've been going on Friday evening, and then the whole day Saturday is when the panels are, and they have signings and everything. And they have 2 years. They took us on a tour of the library. It is like one of the most. They have so much money. I mean, they had a whole video studio, like a professional video studio. And
wow.
Yeah, I mean, it was like astounding. And they treat their writers well. We have a great panel, time of the panel, and they feed us. And a hangout, it's a great hangout all day, Saturday. Their panels starting from 10 a.m. Someone for children. I mean, they're all different topics, mainstream. And my panel at 4 to 5 is on fears. But initially it was supposed to be on the actual book, but at least 2 of the writers are not in the book. So it's basically, we're going to talk about psychological horror and our fears. I'm moderating it. So it'll be Bracken McLeod, Eric LaRocca, Teresa DeLucci, Chris Golden, and Joe Lansdale are going to be on the panel. So it should be fun.
I love Bracken McLeod's name.
And it's free. So I urge you to come. I'm pretty sure it's free. I mean, it's just in the library. So I urge you to drop by, and then we'll sign books after. And then I'll be
nice.
Home. Yeah. So it's really great, and they're very, very nice.
So this is going to sound kind of strange. I'm new to. I'm only 2 years into my con type of experience. Is this like a con where you have your own little setup on the side as well, or is it just you kind of like all hang out and do your panels when you do them? And
yeah, I mean, it's an audience. It's just a library. So there's a section in the library where you sit, where you have an audience. You have the seating. I don't know if I don't know if they have pictures on the website. Probably not. But you have an audience area, and then in the front there's a table with mics, and the panels go on. But during panels, you don't have to go to the panel. You can hang out in the library. You can go and eat. There's a green room. I think there's food all the time. I mean, for the people who are on the program.
Right.
But people can just hang out. It's not like a convention at all. I mean, but it's very warm. But you can go there and hang out.
Okay, I was just confused. I was wondering, based on like the signings, if you had a small table for each.
No, the table is in the same area where it's one big open space. All right, and there are other floors, but everything takes place in the main floor. And after the panels, there's to the side is the autographing table, and that's where the autographs are after every panel. Okay.
I get you. So I was just picturing like everybody's signing the whole time that they aren't on their own panel, and so wanted to.
No, it's only signing after the panel, and then I guess we're still. I can't remember. I mean, I guess we go away after people stop wanting us to sign. We'll sit around and talk and drink or whatever, or then go back to the hotels. I mean, there's a shuttle that goes back from the hotel like 2 or 3 in the morning and 2 or 3 in the evening, or you can take a Lyft or an Uber.
And is it a haunted hotel? Because this is what I've learned about Connecticut. Everything is haunted.
No, I never found it. Knock on wood, nothing was haunted when I was there. I've been there. And the first time, I think it's a different hotel. It is. The first hotel was like a motel. It was okay. And then this is like an actual real hotel. Although I think it's a Hilton, but it may be a lower level Hilton. I forget. I don't have any hauntings at all, but we sit around and drink. And actually, part of the idea, which I want to talk about on the panel, is that last year, either it must have been 2 years ago. It couldn't have been last year because it wouldn't have been that quick. Bracken McLeod and we were talking about horror, I guess, a bunch of us, and Bracken was talking about terror and what terror is versus horror, and that came from I used his quotes in the introduction of Fears, just about what the impending impending doom, it creates a certain feeling, and just talking about psychological horror, kind of thing. So so that kind of gave me what was part of the idea. And also Brad Morrow wrote an introduction to one of his conjunctions about, I think it might have been called Fear Itself, might have been the issue, and I took some of that from his intro about fear. What is fear and what causes fear? Don't ask me now, I don't remember, but it's in the book probably. It's my intro, I'm sure.
I could just pull that up real quick and scroll, because I had to get the Kindle to make sure I'd be able to have it in time. But yeah, no, I saw, I was with you over when Steve Van Sampson interviewed you, and Bracken McLeod. I can't remember who kept saying his name that way, but it was fun. He was over there. And yeah, the build up, the ideas of fear and stuff, instead of it just being straight up horror, it is a horror level, but there are so many different things that and this is, I'm going to be bringing up Stephen King a little bit, but I believe, wasn't it his story Rage that he wrote under, Jenny, you might have to help me. It's the high school kid who goes to class and he's like holding the class hostage or something like that.
Didn't he take that one out of print? Was that the one he took out of print?
He might have. I think it was under the Bachman books.
It was definitely a Bachman book. But I think
it was
out of print because it was about a shooting, school shooting.
Yeah, that would make sense. But that was an entirely different feel for a Stephen King story to me than most of what I'd been exposed to before of his. And it was more of like kind of it, when you have the monsters be human, it changes a lot. And a lot of horror is like gore or supernatural or something like that. But bringing the monsters as the humans in always just affects me more. And that's something I love about this book that you put out, because there's one, Cavities by
Teresa. Teresa?
I think so, yeah. Yeah. Am I allowed to read out just the first sentence?
Sure, you can read whatever you want.
Okay. Okay, I'll read it just a short little bit here. This is how this story starts, and this is how deep it draws you in. 1, the first time you meet a murderer, you are in kindergarten. At the exact moment you're at the dentist getting a lesson about avoiding cavities, the parent volunteer at your after-school program, a woman who has been babysitting you for the past 2 months, brings in a plate of cookies laced with rat poison that sickens and kills 3 of your classmates. And it goes on from there, and it's just a lot of, like, who thinks about, eventually you look back and it's like that woman that you bumped into in the grocery store at some point. This is what she did. And there's some very personal things that go into that story as well, but having a story that grips you immediately with, like, you met this first person in kindergarten, your babysitter with evil, is something that a lot of stories don't immediately grab you the second that you go into them. It takes, a little bit, but as far as some of the first lines going, I can absolutely see why you put her in there, because if there was any lull at all going in the storytelling as it's going through, this is another one that's going to suck you straight back into that level of fear that the whole book really has going for it. There are a couple of stories, I won't say they're lulls, but they take you kind of in a different direction. You might start getting a little whimsical about some of it, but this goes once again straight in your face, just like the one we were discussing before, A Lovely Bunch of Coconuts is just so, if you were lost at any point, you are found, because that is going to just make you have such a visceral reaction to it. it's beyond horror in my opinion.
But it takes a while to get going. I mean, it's one that is set up. I mean,
Mhm.
setup takes a while.
Yeah, it does take a couple pages, and then you're just like, I mean, it takes place in like a Nazi camp. So you have this level already of going in and being like, okay, I'm in a terrible place, but what is going to happen here? And then when it starts happening, it's just such a sucker punch that one, I won't say it's my favorite because I have like 5 favorites and the rest are not like, I didn't like them. They're all just like, these 5 really hit me. The rest all hit me, but wow. And you place them really well in the spots where it might started going a little bit awry. And that's where I've said, like, I might be overthinking the way that you place things, but
The way they came out that way, I'm just happy that they feel that way. But I don't know. I don't know what I did.
You did a great job, Ellen.
I mean, and talking about the placement of stories, it's like, it's serendipity in a way. It's like I have some feel for what I'm doing, but as far as, and I said, the first and the last story is the most important as far as setting up the rhythm. But I'm not one of the, I don't like agonize over each story's placement. I mean, some people probably do. I just try to get a feel for how it is. But I'm glad that people react that way. I mean, obviously, I'm happy that you found more from it than I may have intended. As far as the placement, race.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. So, where do you like to have people find you? First of all, do you have any hobbies that you do outside of reading and collecting? Are there things? Do you have a break in your life? Because it sounds like you are so busy.
No, I mean, I love going antiquing. It's fun. That's my fun. And I do like playing slot machines occasionally, but not too often. I'm glad I don't have one locally.
So next time in Connecticut, I can just call you and be like, hey.
Oh, yeah, let's go to Mohegan Sun. Yeah. Or Foxwood. Yeah.
Okay.
Where do you live?
I'm in Lincoln, Nebraska. I happen to be the comic book podcast that I'm on. They live in New York, Massachusetts, and Connecticut. The owner of our umbrella network, the Dorkening, Leo Pond, actually lives like 10 minutes from the Mohegan Sun.
Oh, okay. Oh.
And so like I fly into New York, then the New York guy drives me and we go up to the Mohegan Sun. Well, we stay by there though. I'd asked about the haunted hotel because the one that we stay at is like it's one of the Hilton ones, and it was built on a cemetery. Like they dug out some of the graves and then they just said screw it and built the hotel over the rest of it. And then there's more of it, like when you look out the window, there's just graves. When you park in the back lot, it wraps around it. So You're like pulling your car in and there are just tombstones and like a little angel praying and stuff. But that's what you see when you're parking your car.
I was in Uncasville, but I don't remember seeing that. What hotel was that?
Let me see real quick. It was, I can pull it up.
Because maybe I'll make
I have it.
With me.
It's a great place. Let me see. Terrificon. Sorry, my laptop is, there were some updates and I'm running a really good laptop, but my browser and everything suddenly went into this like, we hate you mode.
Uh-oh.
And so, yeah, so it's just like, oh, we're just going to load everything really slow. But I'm pretty sure it was like Hampton Hilton something.
Hampton Inn or something like that?
So like a Hampton Inn are those by Hilton?
I don't know. I mean, maybe they were bought by it.
Oh, yeah, it's Hampton by Hilton.
Oh,
it's on.
I see it. Hampton.
Here we go. It's 154 Salem Turnpike in Norwich, Connecticut.
Okay.
Yeah, they're great. The beds are so nice. The pillows are so soft. They have the nice breakfast in the morning and everything. I actually like. It's cheaper than going to the Mohegan Sun. and it's a nicer hotel. And
Right, yeah.
I'm a total snob because my mother's the one who takes me on all these trips, and she's able to afford the nice hotel. So other people are like, yeah, the deal. I'm staying at, like the $59 a night motel. And I'm like, I got the suite at this one and I can't afford it, but she helps me out, So it's like, if I'm going to be staying somewhere, I'm staying somewhere where I'm not bringing home bed bugs or worrying about things like that. Like I want a nice, I can rest sort of place. But yeah, I didn't tell my roommate last year. He was the same one as this year, but I didn't tell him last year what was the deal with the hotel. So he woke up in the morning after getting there. He'd parked in front, so he hadn't seen anything. And he woke up, opened up the window, and it was like tombstones.
Oh, wow.
And that's where they were.
It doesn't show them in the picture.
Oh, well, I'll send you pictures after we're done here, because I have pictures he took that were like,
yeah, definitely. If
this is right from our car.
They definitely do not show. Oh, nice pool, 2 pools.
Yeah, and a gym.
But it doesn't show anything about. It does not show tombstones outside. I see a fire pit.
Yeah, the owner was just like, oh, you're staying at the haunted hotel. And then I was like, haunted hotels, Uncasville, Norwich, Connecticut. I'm like, Leo, they are all haunted. Okay, you can't just say, like, he's like, but you're on the graveyard haunted one. I'm like, okay.
Oh, okay, I'll have to look it up.
Yeah. I was going to ask you another question, and this is just to see if it's just a me thing or if it's something that you also feel or have noticed. And this comes from being like the Connecticut area, and also like Providence is relatively close compared to Nebraska to that area. And I know a lot of authors from that whole East Coast area, and a lot of them have done things like in Providence collections. They might not exactly live there, but they're Providence adjacent enough that they can like count to get into those types of collections. And it seems as if you were moving into Providence, you must have at least 5 different degrees in various artistic subjects to become a member of their community. Like you must be an author and a musician and an actor or different. You can also illustrate.
Wait, you mean living in Providence?
If you're a writer,
I don't know how
most of the. Oh, I have a number of friends who I've talked to before and who I just love their writing, but they're all in that area, and it's just like, okay, first of all, I like Steve, for example. Steve is not only an author, he is also a narrator, he is also an artist, he is also a musician, and he has all these other things. And I'm like, okay, well, that was one thing with Steve. That's really cool. And then I would go on and meet other ones, and they're like, oh, yes, I am also in a band, and I have also done this, 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 and this. And I'm like, do you have to have these degrees to be able to move within a certain distance of Providence? And if you grow up there, or is it?
I don't know anyone who lives there, so I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, I've been, I've gone there occasionally. I've been to Necronomicon once, which I loved, but it usually conflicts with something else, so I can't go there. But no, I don't know anyone who lives there. No.
Oh, something to keep an eye out for. It's really weird when you find like all these people who are like, oh yes, I'm from the East Coast. I live near Providence, or within like this many miles, and I can do everything. I'm a historian with like a PhD and this, and this. It's lovely though, because they all have so many things to talk about. But
yeah. No, I like Providence, and I love Necronomicon. It's very cool. I know for a while, I think Caitlin Kiernan lived there for a while, and I can't remember if she did or not.
I am not that good with names to rattle off where people have lived, but Friday had another question for you.
If you do you have any favorite fan experiences?
I'm sorry, favorite what experiences?
Experiences with fans who read the works you do.
Oh, with fans? Bad ones? Did you?
Fun ones.
Yeah. Fun ones. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, kind of. I mean, I like people coming up to me and saying they like my work. I did have someone. I mean, I really like Facebook. I had, I don't know. Several years ago, I had a teddy bear that my cleaning lady. Well, I found it in two pieces, and and it wasn't like that before. I don't know what happened. And I think my bear lost my head. What happened to it? And someone volunteered to fix it at a convention, and she did. She was lovely. I mean, I forget her name. I'm blanking on her name, but she was really lovely, and she sewed it back together for me. Unfortunately, his starting to come apart totally. His stuffing is coming out now. So, but no, people are fine. People are nice. I like people.
Has any
Kind of disconcerting when someone said, I've been reading you since I've been, since I was 10 or 12. It's like, oh boy. Yeah. It makes me feel old, but other than that, it's great.
Now, it's not our goal to make you feel old, but
I know
that
that.
also
And
doesn't
it's okay.
mean that we're not enjoying what we've been finding.
Yeah. No, I know. I think everyone who, writers always have people praising them, and editors don't get that much. So when someone says they like an editor's work, it's really a lot. It's very nice. It's really great, and I appreciate it. And I know every editor I know very much appreciates it.
So think about that, folks.
Yeah, mostly in this field, it's the only field where people know who the editors are. In mainstream publishing, there are some book editors who are well known, but not that many. And it's kind of an invisible job, and some people think it should be an invisible job, and whatever. But doing anthologies is different because your name's on the cover. I have edited novellas, and for a while, several years, for a long time, Tor put the editor's names on the inside cover, and that was great. And I know David Hartwell fought really hard for that, and they did that for at least 10 or 15 years, and then the corporation decided they didn't want to do it anymore, which I think is really ugly. It was little enough for the editors to get their names on something. I have my name on my anthologies. It's okay. I don't care that much. But the people who work at Tor and who are editing the novellas, to not have their name on it anymore, unless your author acknowledges you, which is another thing, which is very nice. But, it was little enough just to put their name on the cover, inside, on the copyright page. And I'm thinking that was just cheap. It was like cost nothing for them to do. And someone in corporate decided, oh no, we don't want to do that anymore. God forbid our editor should get any credit.
Yeah, and the artist gets the credit, but
well, for a long time, they
and not that
a lot of publishers didn't want to put the artist in because they didn't want other publishers to steal their artists. So for many years, in the old days, if you look on old books like in the 40s, 50s, 60s, I'll bet the artists are not mentioned on the inside cover, any place on the cover, with certain publishers anyway, because they didn't want other publishers to steal their artists.
I guess I'm one of the people who reads the introduction and the conclusion and everything, so I suppose maybe a lot of where I'm getting that idea is that they usually reach out and thank the artist. So
And most writers do thank their editor in a novel or a novella or a collection.
But it's hard work.
I think
it is. Yeah. I always appreciate it. Sometimes I'm embarrassed by it, but yeah.
That's
going to be like coming up to you at cons. Sorry. Go ahead, Jenny.
Sorry. That's one thing that I haven't understood over since 2018. I've been looking at it more and more, but I've been sort of, spoiled by a lot of these smaller presses that I follow, because Balance of Seven, Cursed Dragon Ship, Fake Horrors, and Fractured Mind. They all give acknowledgement to the people who did the cover. They give acknowledgement to all the editors. And sometimes there's like 4 different editors. They give acknowledgement to the author and all those. And then some of the authors are just like, give the whole entire list. Thank you to all of these people who helped me make this as wonderful as it is.
And we're going to thank Lily real quick, because this is one of the editors who works on some of the stuff that I've been in. She is amazing, and she's in the middle of a whole lot of stuff right now. So she is another editor that we look for and go, thank God we have you existing, because otherwise this would be a mess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mate,
you do find sometimes in May, I mean, there have been places where their acknowledgments are 5 pages long. Where someone thanks their, their masseuse, their therapist, everybody in their life. And that's kind of weird, That's a little.
Oh, yeah.
A little odd. I thank my mom. I mean, she specifically named me in a way that she thought that it would like give me an author name I used my full name because she named me Carrie Lee Sanders, and she was like, I just thought that it would sound cool if you ever happen to be a writer. So it was like, well, of course that's what I'm going to do now with my life at some point.
Yeah, Carrie Lee.
Mm-hmm. And that's half the family calls me Carrie Lee, and it's just like, okay, so I'll deal with it. Sorry, I get rambling sometimes, and this guy's supposed to remind me that I'm not to squirrel off on things, but I do. But did you have anything else that you wanted to go over today while we're chatting? Any upcoming news besides the Story Fest that you're going to be anywhere or?
Well, Monday after Story Fest, I'll be on a show with Clay McClaud Chapman. His Fearmongers we're going to be on. Several people from the book are going to be. I think they're going to be reading, including Dale Bailey and Teresa. I don't know if Teresa. I can't remember if Teresa's doing it. Annie. How do you pronounce her name? I'm sorry, Annie. Where are you, Annie? Oh, they're not in alphabetical order. That's not helpful. Neugebberger, I think the name is. Hold on, let me look it up. I want to get it right. But several people who are in the book, I assume they'll be reading. Okay, where are you, Annie? Why can't I find it? And here she is, Annie Neugebauer. And I think Josh Mallerman. So several people are going to be on that show. That's Monday. That's September 30th. And October 6th, I'm going to be, if anyone's near Beacon, New York, I'm doing a thing with Laird Barron's supposed to make his first appearance in ages. He's not been well. He's coming, and Bracken McLeod and Teresa DeLucci and I are all going to be at Stanza Bookshop with the book. They're doing a launch there. And that's October 6th, Sunday evening. And I'll be at World Fantasy. So that's some of the stuff I'm doing in person.
Right. And you can find links directly to Ellen, either up above or down below, depending on which format you're watching this on. And our friend Tom Dog does have a question for you as, what's the one piece of advice that you would give to new writers?
Okay. First of all, make sure you do not send out the first draft. Let it sit and then go over it another time, at least one more time. On the other hand, make sure you do submit your work. Don't just sit on it. So it's, there's a fine line between not sending it out before it's ready and not sending it out. And also, once you send a story out, write another one. Do not wait. Do not wait for rejection. Do not wait for an acceptance. Write your next story. That's the best advice I have, basically. Keep writing and keep sending your work out. And try not to get discouraged. And follow the guidelines. Yeah. Read the guidelines.
We were talking about this.
Whatever they are.
We were talking about this pre-show, and there's so many different places that, depending on what you're submitting, have your story, and then be ready to make another version of your story with, we accept things with tabs. We want things to be double-spaced. We don't want tabs. We want this. We want that. We want this specific font at this pitch. And if you don't send them in, oftentimes they will just be discarded. Ellen, however, is really cool and likes to just read things. So she's one of the cooler people out there, but there will be people who will simply throw your book away before they even see it because you did not submit to the exact way that they want things formatted.
Oh, and
It's
trying to get
something that
paid.
happens.
I mean, I know, don't be so desperate that you'll give your story away to anyone. I mean, try to be a little patient and try to sell your work, even if it's a penny a word, even if it's $20, but something. Then think about where you're being published. Are you going to get read? If you have your work, do your research before you submit to someplace. See what the magazine looks like. See what kind of magazine or website they publish, and see if you like what they publish. At least be aware of it. And try not to be so desperate that you just want to get your work out there, because you want it to get read also. That's why I don't advise self-publishing initially. I mean, if you have a following, that's one thing. If you don't have any following, you're not going to get a following just by self-publishing. It's very difficult. Some people make it and make thousands of dollars, but most people do not. I mean, a book publisher will do the work for you. They're supposed to do minimum of sending out review copies. That's a minimum. Otherwise, you're going to spend all your time marketing and hand selling your book when you could be writing your next one. So.
There you go. Yeah. Keep an eye on it. It is such a difficult market. With people assume there are a lot of people who just walk out there and take things if somebody's submitted it, and this is like you post something on your blog that's a taste for something and people just start public. I'm going to put it on my YouTube channel. I'm going to read it for free because I saw it and I can do that, and people will make money off of you, possibly more than you're making off of yourself, by doing their own reading of your work. So you have to keep an eye out everywhere you're at, I think.
Yeah.
But
someone asked about an agent, not for short stories and not for anthology, not for collections. If you're a novelist, then it's better if you can get an agent, but it's easier to get an agent if you've got a few stories out there at least. But you do not want a short story agent. You do not want an agent selling stories, and they won't take you on anyway because they're not going to make money off you selling short stories, and they're in business too. So if you can get an agent for a novel, yes.
That's very good advice too, because I've been kind of iffy on that, and it's something where I don't plan on doing a lot until I get a lot more published, because I don't see there being a point in me having a website for the 3 things that I have out that are published at this point. But if I get, on a roll, get some things out, get some things going, then I think it's worth promoting myself more and maybe looking into something like that. Is that a fair guesstimation of what to do?
I think you should have a website anyway. I mean, even bare bones. I don't even know about websites anymore. Does anyone have websites? I have no idea. But you have to have you should have a media presence. If you're publishing, trying to publish, you should have some kind of social presence, at least a blog or something, if not a website itself, to let people know what you're doing, where you're doing it, and where they can find your work. It can't hurt.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. I'm going to pull up now, guys, unless anybody has some more questions. We say something and then we get the questions get in. Stefan got something up here. Set up a store. Okay.
That'd be more work than it's worth. I mean, what are you selling? A book or a story? I'm not sure I understand what kind of story you're talking about.
Stefan runs Fractured Mind Publishing, so he has a lot of anthologies and such out there. So in his case, he has himself as an author as well as an indie publishing company. So being able to sell through a store works for him.
Right. Yeah.
All right. And Jenny, you had another question?
No, I was just saying you have 4 stories out now.
Oh, yeah, I do. I forgot. I shouldn't be able to forget when it's only like that small of a number, but I was just like, oh yeah, I don't pay attention to when I'm published because it's all been on accident.
But keep track. You need to keep track of your publications.
I got a spreadsheet, so it's like I know what I have finished, what's been submitted somewhere. I guess I should add like the line of it has been published and how long I have to wait until I can get it again. Because like you were saying also before, don't give everyone else your rights. Make sure that you maintain your rights to your own work because it's very important.
And maybe a Word document with all the information.
Okay. She's also called Friday because she's our gal Friday. She does every single thing for the network, and for a couple of publishing companies, and like maintains every bit. She is like Jenny is everyone on the network. If you write in to half of our authors that are here, you'll probably hear from Jenny first, and then she will refer them to you if it's an interesting conversation. You are not a troll. So
be nice to Jenny.
Knows. Yes, be nice to Jenny. Jenny knows everything. What I'm going to do now, guys, we've had a lot of people on. We've kept her for almost 2 hours now. I'm going to pop up the giveaway tool. We've had a couple of comments that have been from our own channel. So if one of those gets spun, that doesn't count, obviously. We aren't giving ourselves things. So I might have to do it twice, but let's see who gets this. And if I do not know you, make sure to get in touch with me at Carrie Lee Sanders on Facebook. If it is somebody who I don't know, I will tell you as soon as that comes up. But let's go ahead and see who we have on our StreamYard giveaway tool to get a copy of Fear. And that one doesn't count. So
Mike doesn't count?
That was the Dorkening network that it ended up on. Our own network can't win. Lily! That is very awesome. Lily, I will be sending you a hardback version of this book. She is also an editor.
It's paperback.
Paperback, sorry. Okay. I will be sending you a paperback edition of this book, Lily. I will get your information later. Anyway, we have some of your show notes up and down. Where do you like people to get in touch with you? Do you want people to reach out at your website? Or
people can contact me. There's a contact form on my website, datlow.com. If you have anything you want to submit for the year's best, if you have a story in an anthology coming out or a magazine, you can contact me at datlow@yahoo.com. But it's pinned on my Facebook page, and it's also on my blog on my website saying, where you can contact me for year's best stuff.
Okay.
And also my mailing address too.
All right. Well, if you could hang around for just a couple minutes, I'm going to sign us out here real quick. And thank you guys for tuning in. It was wonderful to have you all here. And I hope more people end up watching this and getting a chance to see and have some questions answered. And let me find my buttons. All right. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you so much for popping in.
It's great seeing you all.